Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our training about the CrossChex Cloud, the breaking time shift new feature. My name is Leonardo. I will be the speaking today. I am here with Mr. Diraj, and together we will explain you this very interesting new function of our system CrossChex Cloud. So we will just wait a few more minutes, wait everyone to be here with us. And in this meantime, you can use the chat box, you can use the Q&A button to interact with us. Welcome once more. If you want to tell me where you are, your name, your country, we can exchange some information during the training. And right after the training, we will still be here for a few minutes so we can communicate to everyone to try to solve all the existing questions you may have, not only about this feature, but also about CrossChex Cloud and other Envy solutions. So stay tuned. We will start very soon. Oh, some people are saying that the chat is not enabled. Let me check if I can enable the chat in a while. If not, I can see your comments by the Q&A button. So let's just make a double check. And if we cannot use the chat button, Q&A will be our communication channel. Just one moment. Greetings, Mr. Dan Tao from Vietnam. Welcome. Thanks for being here. Well, guys, I guess the chat button will be an issue today since I would spend a little time on that, but you can use the Q&A box button. We are seeing your questions by there, and whenever something is relevant, we can share your questions, we can share your comments to the other attendees, and together we can talk about it. My colleague, Mr. Diraj, will be able to support replying by text, and once it's relevant, I will also make my comments with the microphone. So we will make sure everyone will have all your questions replied, okay? So telling that, let's officially start. So let me share my screen. Okay, I have here the PPT presentation. Welcome everyone. My name is Leonardo Ribeiro once more. I am responsible to provide you the CrossChex Cloud training today. We are going to talk about the break time shift function. It's a very interesting function. We have released it in the few days ago. I'm here with Mr. Diraj. Diraj, how are you? Good evening for you.
Yeah, thank you, Leonardo. Thank you so much, and welcome everyone in this public training.
Okay, very nice. So Diraj will help me with the questions, and I will be the one to give you some examples and to talk about the content today. So Diraj, whenever you think is interesting, we can stop from one topic to another, having some questions, talk with customers, and of course, in the end of the presentation, we will still have some more time to talk with them, okay? So thanks for the support. So here I will show you the agenda. We can say it's a quick training because we are going to focus on a specific topic of CrossChex Cloud. Remembering we have our Envis community, we have a lot of information interesting there. So if you go to community.envis.com, we have a special page only dedicated to the CrossChex Cloud. We have written many tutorials about how to create your account, how to add a new device, how to enroll employees, how to set shifts. So a lot of interesting and relevant information you'll be able to find in there. So for today, we are going to make a shift creation. I will explain line by line about the shift creation, the schedule assignment. So after creating the shift, we will schedule that shift to the employees. We will simulate some records of clocking in and clocking out for some employees, and we'll make the analysis of their report based on the break time shift. And by the last, we will simulate a manual record, a previous feature we have implemented in April this year. That is a very interesting feature as well. So talking about that, let's start. So I will share my screen, my web browser with you guys. So Diraj, please confirm when you can see my full screen.
Yeah, sure.
Let me share it to the CrossChex Cloud page. Can you see or not yet?
Yes, I'm able to see the login page of CrossChex Cloud, Leo.
Perfect. So that's what I was looking for. Thanks. So as you may know, we have different servers of CrossChex Cloud. On today's tests, we are going to use the European one, which is eu.crosschexcloud.com. So I will make just this address to move on with our CrossChex Cloud page. So here it is. Remember, we can change the language whenever we want on the login page, and also once we are logged in. So if you don't have your CrossChex Cloud yet, you can sign up for a new account. But for today's tests, I will use my CrossChex Cloud account as reference. I have some interesting information I planned for you guys to be there. So we will start talking specifically about the shifts. Okay, so I am logging in at my account. So Diraj, whenever you think something is not stable or it's something you want to add, just open your mic, okay? I will be here at your feedback. So let's put it on a full screen to be easier.
Yes, sure.
Okay,
Great.
So here we have the full screen of CrossChex Cloud, and let's go straight to the organization, to the attendance tab, where we will have the shift settings. So for those that doesn't know, shift is where we are going to create fixed times for the employees. So assuming, for example, we have a company and my employees work from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., I will make a shift for them. So they will, with the shift, we have some advantages. We'll be able to calculate the late time if they are delayed. We will be able to calculate if they are leaving early. We can set overtimes and some other interesting features. Of course, we do have another solution that is using flexible shifts. So when the employees doesn't have a fixed shift, imagining that today they start working at 9 a.m. but tomorrow probably he will start working at 2 p.m. So they don't have a fixed shift. You don't need to assign shifts for them. But in that case, you will not be able to control delays. You will not be able to control if they are leaving early or not. You will not be able to control the breaks as well. So this is important. To use the break function, you need to have some reference on the shift, knowing when they start, when they stop working during that period. So talking about the flexible shift, you will not be able to use those options. So today we are going to focus on the fixed shift to explain the break function, okay? So here I separated 3 different shifts for you guys. We are going to talk about them later. So I made a regular shift from 9 to 6 p.m. with 1 hour break, another regular one for 2 hours break, and another regular one from 30 minutes break. So I will not create a new one. I will just edit one of them, and we are going to speak one by one. So the shift name and the notes are only for human reference. You can rename or name the shift the way you prefer and make some internal comments in that can be useful for you, for example. So dirty on time, it will be always when the shift starts. So when the employee start working for the day, I will put that period for him or for her. And the same as the dirty off time. So imagining my example, my employee will work from 9 to 6 p.m. My suggestion, always use the 24 hours format to avoid any misunderstanding on the internal records, on the internal reports. So imagining that 6 p.m. in the afternoon, 18.00 would be the suggested application for you. This is an interesting feature we have recently as well. Some people, they don't know yet what is this feature for. So this will be used, the recalculation will be used, for example, if you already have records of your employees in the CrossChex Cloud, but you need to modify that shift. You need to make some modifications on the dirty in or on the clocking out, or maybe on the allowance that we are going to see later. So to make sure that after your modification, your reports will be modified, if you want to get those reports again, you have to make the recalculation and select the period. But this is only considering if you already have records for that employee in the past and you want to make these changes to get a new report with the information updated for the employees, okay? So if you don't want that anymore, if the reports you took in the past will not be useful anymore, you will just move from now and on the future, you can disconsider this function, okay? So you can set up a color for this shift. This is very important and very useful when you're going to make the scheduling, because it will use the color of the shift as reference for you. We're going to reach that part. And when we click show more options, here are the configuration details we can pass through. So the first one is the time of late punch-in allowed. What does that mean? This is the allowance for the clocking record. So for example, if I set here 5 minutes and my dirty on time, my clocking in period is 9 a.m. If my employee clocks at 9 and 2 minutes, for example, that will not be a problem because I put 5 minutes as allowance for him. So he will have up to 9 hours and 5 minutes to make his clocking in without having any late discount, okay? And in another example, if he clocks in at 9:10, 9 hours, 10 minutes, then in this case, he will have 10 minutes as delay because it got above of the limit on his allowance. So this first one is the clocking in allowance, and the second one is the clocking out allowance. The same logic I just explained, but in case he will leave earlier than the regular time. So if he's leaving at, for example, 5:55 p.m., in this case, will not be a problem because it's inside the limits. But if he leaves at 5:50, 5 hours 50 minutes, then we will have some discount on his report because it's above the limit. So basically, this is where this functions works. Without punch, pretending that the employee didn't clock it out or didn't clock out. At this case, we have some options we could give. Most of cases we let as exception, because if we let as exception, we get the report. We will be notified with a pink line. I will show that later as well, that we hadn't received a clocking out record for that employee. Some cases, the company, they make some automatic rules for that. So they will not worry with the clocking out if the employees forget. So they can just set up a clocking out discount for the employees. For example, a leave early, that you can put your references here. So imagining that I will always put 60 minutes as a discount whenever the employees forget to clock out. I could make this as a leave early penalty, or I could make this as an absent penalty and also set up the time. So generally, we just let it exception, but it's up to you to define what is best for your company. We also have the early punch in as overtime and the late punch out as overtime. So making modifications here will allow the overtime calculation on your reports. So assuming that your employees will never have overtimes because of your company policy, we just let here disabled with a zero in there. But assuming that after some determined minutes, some presetted minutes, I will want to calculate overtime for my employees. So according to that, I will have the clocking in overtime calculation. So for example, if I set 60 minutes here for the clocking, assuming my employee clocks in at 9 a.m., in case my employee clocks in at 8 a.m., 60 minutes before the regular time, then I will consider for this employee 1 hour as overtime during the morning period. But in this case, if he clocks in at 8:30, he clocked in after the minimum limit of 60 minutes. So in this second example, there will no overtime being considered for him because those 30 minutes are not enough. So I can modify this value according to the way I want for his overtime settings, okay? So the first one are for the records before the dirty on time, before the clocking in, and the second one, the same logic for the dirty off, for the last record after his clocking out, okay? So talking about that, we have explained it, the main functions of configuring a fixed shift, and then now we are moving forward to the topic of today, the breaks itself. So before that, Diraj, you want to add some comments, any relevant questions you would like to share?
Yeah, there was one question from the participant, like if we recalculate the data, like we have given the recalculation option over there. So will it affect to the previous data? So as I replied, like we have to select the recalculation date frame or period for which the data will be processed actually. So if you
Okay.
can, if you want, you can add some comments, Leo.
Sure. So making some compliments on your reply, Diraj. So if you want to use the recalculation, that will be used for you if you, in case you need to modify the shift for the employee and you need to take that report again. So if you need to make that report again using the modifications you did on your shift after creating it, then you use the recalculation field, and then you set up the time you want that recalculation to be done. So for example, the last month, I forgot when I created the shift to make a 10 minutes allowance on the clock in and the clock out. And a lot of my employees, they have discount, but they were inside their limit. So in this case, I would edit my shift, modify the late punch-in allowance and the early allowance for 10 minutes, save my shift, but I would also recalculate that for the period of last month. Doing that, when I get my reports again, I would be able to see the report was updated and those discounts of late early leave and late clocking in would be reduced. So that's the meaning for this recalculation period. Okay. Anything else, Diraj?
No, I think that's good. Good to go, Leo.
Okay, thank you. So moving next, we are going to talk now about the features of the break options. So when do we use the breaks? We use the breaks when we want to calculate maybe a rest or maybe a lunch time during the dirty day, during that period of working hours for the employee. So if I don't want to calculate breaks, I just remove and let the break option disabled. But assuming I want that, I will enable it. So the first option is the threshold, which is the minimum amount of time someone needs to work in a day to deduct break time. So if you want to use that, for example, in our report, in our examples, we have 8 hours of working and 1 hours of break, 1 hour of break in this case. But I will only consider the break if my employee works at least 5 hours in this day. So assuming, for example, he works just 4 hours or less, doesn't matter if the records were there, I will not consider his break because he didn't reach the limit I want for him to work on this period. In case I do, this information is not relevant for me, I just click disable and I keep configuring the other features. This is not a mandatory field you must have to configure unless that is relevant for you. But the second one is mandatory, is when the break will be considered to start and when the break will be considered to end. So this will set up our breaking range limit. So this is important for us to know. So imagining that from 8 in the morning, let me see again, from 9 in the morning to 6 p.m., my lunch time is between midday and 3 p.m. So in this case, the breaks will always be done during this range. What happens, for example, if my employees clock their breaks before the range or after the range? My system will consider the maximum amount for this break. I will explain that later in a comparison table for you guys. So you don't need to have worried about this now because on the examples, you will understand better. But for now, you just need to know that the breaks must be done inside this range. The 2 records of break. The first one before midday, the second one, no, the first one after midday, the second one before 3 p.m. Okay, and then I set up the break duration. So I want my reports to have 1 hour as break for this regular shift. So basically, that's all we have to know. I made up here 3 examples. So you're seeing the 1 hour break example. I will close it. I'm making it at green color. So on the pink color, I have the 2 hours break, imagining my employee have 2 hours at lunch, for example. So everything is the same until the break duration, okay? I just changed the break duration to 2 hours in this case. And some companies, they use 30 minutes break or more or less. So you can also put decimals in there. So on the 30 minutes break, you will see that I set up at 0.5 because the calculation is always used on our period. So 30 minutes is a half an hour. So I will let it there 0.5 for that reference, okay? So basically I have 3 shifts with different hours in there. And now I will make it the scheduling. I will assign those shifts to the employees. So for that, I will click on schedule and select my employees I want to assign those shifts. So for example, I could assign the shift for my user, Leonardo, for Friday, for tomorrow. I would click here, select the date. I could select just one day specifically, clicking firstly on the start date and clicking again on the last date. So for example, in my case, I will click again just to make a shift for Friday as reference, okay? And then I would choose regular break for my employee, excluding the below days. For example, if I am doing in a week or in a month, I could exclude automatically those days, Saturday and Sunday, or more days, or if I had set holidays on my CrossChex Cloud account, that would be considered as well to remove. And then just click confirm. So doing that, the losango of the color of the shift would appear on the calendar. Remember, I mentioned the color is important for reference. So that's why it is important, because it will give you the reference of which shift that employee will have for that specific day. And if you pass the mouse through the icon, it will show you the name of the shift. So for this example, I have done some configuration on the previous week. So I did shift assignment for me on the regular hour. You can see the green color from Monday to Friday using this shift. For another employee, as reference of Mr. Felix, I give him the shift of 2 hours as reference. You can see by the pink color. And for Peterson, I did the same, but now using 30 minutes regular shift. So doing that, we have finished the assignment of scheduling. Remember, you can always delete, modify, or change modification of shift assignment in this screen, okay? Okay, moving next. Viraj, any comments before we move to the next topic?
No, we are good to go, Leo.
Okay, thank you. So now, of course, I did some records for simulation before this training, but you would be able to check it in real time in case you would apply that for your customer. So I will show you the records I did from 11 to 15th or to 16th. I'm not sure now, but we can check on the weekly records. Yes, from Monday to Friday of last week, and I will search. So these are the records I did for all the employees. Don't worry, because I will explain on a comparison sheet in a few minutes. So just let you know that I made those records for the simulation, okay? And here I will show you exactly the records I did. So I am opening an Excel file right now so you can have a reference. So basically what I did all the clocking ins at 9. I did some breaks in random times, in different times, because we are going to see one by one of them as real examples, but I always made the clocking out at 6 p.m. So clocking in always at 9, clocking out always at 6 p.m. I did that for 1 hour break test. I did that for 2 hours break test. And I also did that for 30 minutes break tests. But for reference, the breaking records were done for the same time to the 3 examples, okay? So we will always have the same period for this comparison for all the examples we have. Remember also that we will share this file of simulation to you. You will have this for your internal analysis. We will share the recording of this webinar. We will post that on our YouTube support channel, so you will always have reference of this training with you guys if necessary, consulting in further, okay? So let's move next. This is just the timesheets. These are the historical of the attendance records. They are not the reports yet. So to go straight to the reports, we will use the TNA report function right after the timesheets. And here we are going to select one by one, employee by employee, to understand better, to avoid misunderstanding information between them, okay? So let's start with employee number 1, the one that I used it for 1 hour as break time. So I selected the period we want. I choose the employee number 1, and here I have his info. So you will be able to see his department, the date, clock it in, his shift time, his real record of clocking in, his real record of clocking out, and a new column appeared since the last upgrade. That is the break time. This is the one we are going to speak today and we will compare today. So let's start with that. So basically what I did in my simulation was to export it, the current data report, and I copied this current data report to my Excel file. So if you see here, this is exactly the report I took from the page we are on the CrossChex Cloud. So to know that, I transferred the actual time and the break time from here to this comparison table. So everything I did on the cross checks, I put here to explain you guys easier so you understand how the system works with the break functions, okay? So the first one I did was on a Monday, clocking in at 9 a.m., clocking the first break at midday, and the second break at 1 p.m. What happens in this case? I will have an actual time of 8 hours on the real math if I make the calculation on my calculator. So 8 hours of working time, but my system gave me 8 hours as actual time. So I put it in green because it's correct. And my break time, I also had it as 1 hour. So if we come back here to July 11th, this one, you will see here actual time and break times are okay. So moving next, 1 hour break, 1 hour break. So that's the perfect record. Everything regular, normally done. So I will mark it here as a blue color because now we are going to see the next ones, the ones that maybe are not so stable. So then we will understand how the software reacts, okay? For the next one, on Tuesday, July 12th, we made a record, but we have done a 2 hours breaking here. Can you see it? Break midday for start the break period and break at 2 p.m. So how the software reacts on there? He will give me 7 hours at actual time because I had a 2 hours break. So the software understand that correctly. If you see here on the report, you will see the break time here. It's the question of rounding up. So if we round up to 7 hours and 2 hours as break time, we will see that that's correct, okay? So how the software understand that? Because we set the break duration for 1 hour. So if I did my records, my breaking records on a period bigger than 1 hour, my software will deduct that time and will discount from my working hours. That's exactly what we did here. I did 1 more hour than I supposed to do as break, and then I had a discount of 1 hour at my working time. All right. So moving to the next example, we did the same, but now only 30 minutes of break. So now the software reacts a little bit different because I want my employees to have 1 hour as break. Doesn't matter if he made 1 hour break period or if he made less than 1 hour. I will have 1 hour discount for him according to my shift. So in this case, the real math would be 8 hours and 30 minutes of working period, but my actual time will be considered as 8 hours. I don't want to know if he did a shorter break period than he's supposed to do. I will keep paying him 8 hours and not 8 hours and 30 minutes. So the software is reacting pretty fine according to this other example, okay? And to finish this one, I did 2 examples. One, making the first break before the start time range. So you can see here, the start time range is midday. And I did a breaking record at 11 a.m. And the second example, I did the same, but making a break record after 3 p.m. I did here 4 p.m. So what I want to mean with those 2 records is whenever I have a clock in or a clock out outside the range, my software will react differently from the previous example. The software will always consider the maximum break as reference. In this case, the maximum break as reference is the difference from 3 p.m. to midday. So my break time will be considered 3 hours, and I will reduce those hours from my working time because I had breaks outside the range. So I made a quick explanation about this. I just spoke right here. So in case my employee forgot to break in to record the first break, or forgot to request to record the second break, what should I do? So in this case, we will have a manual report. We'll be able to make a manual record. I'm sorry. We'll be able to request for a manual record that I'm going to explain you guys how it works in the last topic of our training of today. Okay, so stay with me at the end and you will see how to solve that if necessary. Diraj, are we good to go? Any question, any information you would like to share?
Yeah, I think we are okay with this. There might be number of questions from the users or the participant, like how we can manage the multiple breaks in a time duration. So let's say our break time start time is 12 o'clock and end time is 3 o'clock. And if user takes multiple breaks in the particular time frame, then how we can manage it? That can be the question from the users again.
Okay, so in this case, multiple breaks are not very well accepted in the software. We are making shifts for one break specifically in a period. Okay, so in case the customer they have a lot of multiple breaks during the day, doesn't matter which time. So in those cases, I would suggest using the CrossChex standard software. We do have another version that is Windows based that we will calculate. Doesn't matter how many breaks you have on the system, we can calculate the difference between them and give a total sum of break time after a certain period. So this time attendance report is based for a simple small and medium business where we have one break per day for a specific time. So if you want to move forward with complex configuration, we suggest you use the CrossChex standard, okay? Okay, saying that,
Yeah.
whenever you want to interrupt me, feel welcome, Diraj. So if nothing else for now, I will go up to the next example. That is the 2 hours break. So I did exactly the same, but now using the 2 hours break test. So you can see here, I put it here in a different color, but you will see that the records are exactly on the same time. So for those records out of range, their result will be always the same because they have records outside the range, and we will use the maximum time between them. So at this specific case, the most important line for us to understand is the second line. I will mark it as blue because you're going to see that I put a record from midday to 2 p.m. as break, and my software understand that as a break. Let me change the color here so you'll be able to see it easier. Put in a dark green. Okay, perfect. So now you will see that we will have 7 hours as actual time and 2 hours as break because I set up 2 hours for this employee. And in case this employee has less than 2 hours break, doesn't matter. I configured for discount 2 hours as break for them. So if he had 1 hour break, that is in the first example, my break time will be 2 hours. If I have 30 minutes break in the same example, I will also have 2 hours break because I set up for him to have 2 hours discounted as break. So the logic in here is also correct. All right. And moving next for the 30 minutes break, it's pretty the same, but using 30 minutes as reference. You can see here the break duration of 0.5 hours, which is 30 minutes, and the out of range will react like the same, like we just spoke on those two examples before. And this is the most interesting for us at this moment. the 30 minutes break, how it really works. So assuming that I had a break at 12, another break at 12:30, my real math and my actual time will match because 30 minutes is the break I want to discount for this employee, and I will have 30 minutes as break. If we see here, we will also have 30 minutes because I just copied the information here to the Excel for an easy comparison. And for the other examples, assuming that 30 minutes is what I want to pay as to have as a break, if the employee have a bigger break than 30 minutes, I will keep counting the time as break because he worked more, he had a break bigger than he should have. So complementing this thought, on the first line, he had a 1 hour break time stopping at 12, restarting at 1 p.m. So my break will be considered 1 hour because he did more break than he should. And on the second example, exactly the same, but now clocking in for break at 12, clocking out for break at 2 p.m. and 2 hours as break time. So this is the logic how the break function will work at our CrossChex Cloud on those three examples, okay? So they will always follow this kind of logic. Doesn't matter the time you set up for the break time, okay? So basically for the break function, that is it. So Diraj, something you would like to comment? Any question or any relevant situation you would like to share?
Yeah, so there are a few doubts from the participants. Like one is what will happen if user punches by mistake more than 2 times in a window in the break window. So
Oh,
suppose
this is
here
a
we are
very
giving
good
a break
question.
window. Yeah,
I will
please,
show
please.
you how to solve that question, Diraj. Thanks for sharing. So this is a situation that could happen. For example, if the device took 2 records in a row and that could damage your break report. To avoid this kind of error, we always suggest you to configure your Envis hardware to avoid repeated records. I will show you exactly where. I have a FaceDeep tree connected to my account. I will use its web browser to show you that. So on the web browser, I will log myself, Envis12345, the standard password. Here I have a configuration I can do. I think it's in the basic setup, time attendance. We have here duplicate punch range. This is very interesting because it will avoid repeated records from a certain period. I will inform in this field. So I can put here 10 minutes. I could put here 20 minutes, 30 minutes, anything up to 250 minutes. So when I put this, for example, 10 minutes, if I have my break at midday, I record myself there, then I will have lunch. And in the middle of the lunch, I say, oh my God, I don't remember if I clock it in the break time. What should I do? I will clock it in again just to make sure I did it. In this case, if I have here the repeated duplication range configured in the next 10 minutes from the first break record, my system will not consider the second record. So I will not have repeated records for the period I inform in this field. Okay, so you can find this field by the web browser. You can find this field by the device internal menu as well. Okay. Any other question, Diraj? Keep showing me the questions on the chat. Yeah, you're doing good. Thank you for that. I can read that clearly. Okay, I saw another one. What if user takes multiple breaks? Example, 12:30 to 1 and 1:30 to 2 as these punches fall under the break time we have configured. So as I spoke before, if we have more than 2 breaks in the same day, I would not suggest you using CrossChex Cloud. CrossChex Cloud is a basic application for small and medium business for time attendance. But in case you have different breaks, you have multiple breaks, if you want to add more breaks, not only that period, but for example, if the employees have a 15 minutes break in the morning, 20 minutes break in the afternoon, things like that, that goes outside the average situation, I would suggest you using CrossChex Standard. Is our Windows-based software with plenty configuration of time attendance and also access control. So that is a more complete software dedicated for this kind of situation. CrossChex Cloud will be always following the average for small and medium business, okay? So that would solve your question. Okay, another one. If employee doesn't go for break, will the application auto deduct this break time? That is a good question. We could make tests for that. But for example, assuming that there is not any break and you need to add those breaks, you can add that manually. So let's keep this question to the end because I will show you right now how to make manual records for your employees. So that solve partially your question, and then we can simulate your last one by the end, okay? So stay with me now to the next topic. So here, let's go to the dashboard. Then let's go to the employee page. We will see all the enrolled users from here. So let's assume, for example, I will make a login page for Peterson. Peterson is my employee. So I will click edit. Let's go straight to row settings. And then I will set up him as employee. If I set up as inactive, he will still be a regular employee, but he will not have access to his CrossChex Cloud account. That's what I want for him. So I will set it as employee and put the password 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. For example, I can set up a simple password for him, and on his first login, he can change his password for any kind of password he's want. Okay, so let's follow this way. I will click next to save the scheduling. I will not change that, so I can click on X or click in confirm. It will do both. So now I will log myself as if I were him as an employee, okay? So I have to have two numbers as reference. His ID number, I will make a notepad here, Peterson, ID 4, okay? And I need also the CrossChex Cloud account. CrossChex Cloud company ID. So these are the basic info I will need to record myself, to log myself as an employee. So where do I find my CrossChex Cloud company ID? When I go settings, here it is. So here is my company ID number. I will need it to make the login, okay? So I will put here the login number and his ID. Now let's log off as an employee, as administrator, sorry, and let's log in as employee, okay? So on the main page, I will now switch to the employee button. Remember the company ID? Here is where we put it. Then the employee ID for Peterson, employee ID number 4. And his password 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's sign in as the employee right now. I am logging the page. If I were Pearson, I will only see information of my records, of my clocking in, or my clocking out, of my timesheets, of my scheduling. So this is the specific page for the employee. So you can see here the timesheets. This is the chronogram, the calendar. I have shifts. So I have little dots here. You can see from Monday to Friday, 11 to 15. This is my example. And then I can see if I recorded exactly or not, the time I recorded. And if I click time record, it will give me the details when I did the clocking in exactly and when I did the clocking out. But the focus for now at this topic is the manual request, for record. So that is very interesting. For example, imagining that today I am working, visiting a customer. I'm not at the office, so I don't have an Envis hardware, to register myself, to clock in or to clock out with my face. So I need to make a manual request. So to do that, I will go here at my request page, click add, and request for a manual record. I will choose the day I want. Let's choose today, for example, at 9 a.m. So 9 a.m. Doing that, I will make some notes. Of course, this is not mandatory, but I could complement this. For example, business visit at customer ABC, meeting to discuss about sales. I don't know. So I put here just as reference because I will send this manual request to my manager, to my administrator, to my boss, whatever, whoever is responsible to make the chronograms, to make my attendance reports. So can you see here? Shift requested, pending. So it will stay here until the administrator send me approval or a rejection. So I will open a new anonymous tab because I will log myself in the same way, in the same time, but now as an admin, pretending I am in another computer, I am in another situation, checking the employee system. So just for simulation, I will log on an anonymous account, CrossChex Cloud, gmail.com, my password, let's sign in. And now, assuming that I am the boss again, I will check the manual requests for my employees. So assuming that they are outside the company, I will go at attendance tab and then request. And here it is, Peterson, employee number 4, tells me exactly the date he did it. So in a real example, I could compare the requested date and time is similar or not with the requested date and time he wants me to approve that record. So I can check if that is correct or not and approve that or reject that by clicking approve or decline. If I click decline, that will disappear from the request page and that will not be considered as a real record. But if I click approve, this request will be converted to a regular record, the same as if he was recorded with his face on the device itself. You can see the filters here. The filters, I can check the later and check for existing kind of requests or rejected requests or other kind of requests, and if they were canceled, if they were pending. So just to check historical of my requests. But for now, let's approve them. So you will be able to see that record will be considered. So just to make sure, let's go on record 21st. I will just select 21st date and let's have a search. And here it is. You can see the device column, shift requested. So that will be considered as a normal record if that is approved by the boss, by the administrator, and that will make reflections on the attendance report to calculate the working time for the employees. Okay, and if we refresh again the employee page, we will see that is approved. Okay, so basically that's how it works. Hey Diraj, how are you? Do you have any comments or any questions you would like to share?
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out some resolutions for the queries. So there are some queries like will be there any mail notification from CrossCheck Cloud regarding this request and all, or once the request gets approved by the administrator, will the employee gets the mail notification and all. So
Okay,
I believe like as of now we are not having any mail notification feature in CrossCheck Cloud, right? But we are working on that.
yes, we will do it in a different way. We will not have this as an email notification, but we will have a notification on the CrossChex Cloud app. So that is interesting. Let me see if I can find a background material for you guys. I will show that for you. So just you to know that we will release a CrossChex Cloud app very soon. On the CrossChex app, we will have very interesting features. Let me just share the material with you guys for that specifically speaking. And let's use that as reference to talk about.
Yeah, so Leo, there was one more question from
Mhm.
the participant, like when they're like when they will get the mobile application, the cloud mobile application.
Okay, so we will answer those two questions in the same time. Let me share again my screen. So let me know when you can see it again, please. Oops, I shared wrongly, sorry. Yes. So let me see when you can see it, please.
Yes, it's visible.
Perfect. So we are releasing the CrossChex Cloud app very, very soon. Just to let you guys know, I am testing the final version, and I'm thinking I'm having good results of it. So maybe in the last week of July, maximum beginning of August, we will have CrossChex Cloud app for Android and for iPhone. So with the CrossChex Cloud app, we will be able to have notifications from the app. So we will be able to configure whenever there is a manual request, for example, that I need to approve or to reject, I will get the notification on my phone directly. There will not be an email. That will be the app notification for that. And we will also have the tracking, the GPS tracking. So for now, we can do clock-ins and clock-outs manually by the CrossChex Cloud, but we need to use the web browser, a Google Chrome, Safari, a Mozilla, any kind of Microsoft Edge, any kind of web browser, but it must be by a web browser. Can be in a computer, can be in a phone, can be in a tablet, but I don't have this feature yet. That is the GPS location. Once I have the app and my employees log in at their account, and of course, if I authorize the GPS location, I will make requests, and on this request, the GPS location will be sent together with the manual request information, the employee, the date, the time, the comments, and his location when he requested for that record. So that will be the main advantages of the CrossChex Cloud app that will be released in the future, okay? Any other question?
No, that's fine. That's really great feature that we are providing the mobile application.
Yes, that will be. I'm very excited for that. I'm doing the final tests here. As soon as we will release that officially. We will communicate all the customers, sharing EDMs, social medias, LinkedIn, Instagram, things like that. We will hear that, let you guys know as soon as possible. Okay, guys, so the content of today, that is it. So we can stay a few more minutes just for Q&A, comments, questions, talk about the features. We had programmed 1 hour for this training. We told you the configurations of fixed shift, of scheduling, of the breaking configurations, examples. We spoke a little bit about the next app. So if you guys are busy, you have some other things to do, we understand completely. So my greetings for you guys. Thank you for participating. Thank you for being here. We will post this video and the material on our on our YouTube channel. We will send an automatic email for those that subscribed for this webinar. So thank you guys very much. We will stay here for a few more minutes and reply some questions. But if you want to leave, greetings. Okay. Diraj, something you would like to share?
No, as of now, there are some basic queries like one query was there, like if employee doesn't go for a break, then will the application deduct the break time?
Oh, yes,
That is
that
what.
is a very good question. So for that, if you configured 1 hour break time for the employee, but the employee didn't did the break, uh, the system will not consider that as a break. So that will be the actual time, for example, in my case of 9 hours from 9 to 6 p.m. That will be 9 hours working, 0 break. okay? Because there are no break records. In this case, if you want that, the break records, you can add manually those records to have a break, okay? This is a good, interesting feature. Maybe we can work on it to make it automatic if I select that. I will work with the engineers on that. I will also make my tests, but for now, the breaks are mandatory if I enable the break function, okay? Thank you, Juan. Welcome. A pleasure to be here providing the training for you guys. For we apply to my country for business on next time, Envis can apply my language at Vietnam country. Oh, Mr. Dan, that is very interesting. We would like to help you on that. So if you want, you can send us an email at support@envis.com. And if you would like to help us with that translation, usually we do like this. So we already translated our software for other particular languages, and our local partners, they helped us with that. We send the information we want to be translated, and our partner that has the good knowledge of the local language do the translation, and we check together to make the improvements, okay? So if you can send an email to support@envis.com, would be helpful, and we would be able to work together on that if you can contribute. Thank you very much. How to configure flexible shift in the cloud? Mr. Shihab Shams, sorry if I did not spell that correctly, but to flexible shift, it's pretty easy. You don't need to configure shifts. You don't need to configure the scheduling assignment. Basically for that, you will just need a clock in record and a clock out record, okay? So with that, the system will calculate the time between the first record and the last record. So that's how you work on the flexible shift. On the flexible way, we cannot even say shift for that, but that is how it works. But remember, you just will be able to have 2 records per day. Breaks are not included on the flexible one, okay? Actual time is always the payable time. Exactly, Juan. That's how the logic works. The actual time will be the considered time for the payroll. So it will deduct the late time, it will deduct the early leaves, it will deduct the breaks. So you will use that as reference to make the payable calculation, okay? I hope you'd like to sell units also. Oh, we are always selling, Mr. Tibor. So if you're interested in buying our solution, our devices, you can contact the sales manager from your region. If you do not have a sales manager, just send us a message at sales@envis.com. Tell us your name, your country, that you would like to receive offers of our solutions. So the internal team will forward you the responsible one. Today was more like a technical training, but of course, we will not reject if you're interested in buying our solution. So please contact your sales manager. He will be able to help with this demand, okay? Thanks.
So Leo, sorry to disturb you. Like Mr. Tibor has asked previously, like if users are able to punch their attendance from the mobile app, then is there need of the biometric device? So I had replied to him like there is no need of biometric device. Users can use the mobile app, but yes, for more authentication or more authenticated identification, we recommend you to go for Anvis devices only.
Oh, okay. I guess I understand the question. So yes, so talking about that way, the CrossChex mobile application, you could do manual records. You could use our software without any having in this device. That's correct. But maybe that will not be forever. Okay. We of course we have to be rentable as well. So at this first moment, you don't even need an Envis device for that. But we are also have our plans in the future to make payable versions of the software. So that's not fixed yet how it's going to be, but definitely in the future, for example, for the customers that want to use our software solution, but they will not buy Envis devices, we will know that because we can check the accounts internally. So for those cases, probably we will have a license fee for the users and employees to use our solution, not having an Envis device, for example. So for now, that's very the beginning of everything. We are on beta test. We will release that firstly on the next weeks. So for now, everything is easy and beautiful, right? But take care. Thanks, Diraj. Thanks, Mr. Tibor. Now I guess I understand the question correctly, okay? Next one, is there only one overtime calculation? Yes, for CrossChex Cloud, we can do just one kind of overtime. We do not have multipliers for the working time. So the overtime column will always follow the same proportion of the working hours. You will just be able to see the working time, the overtime hours worked outside the period. So if you need more calculation on that, if you need more features, if you need multiplication for working hours on the overtime, for example, Mr. Juan, you can use the CrossChex standard, because the CrossChex standard is very complete on that. You have multiplications on the working hours, for example, for the weekdays, for the weekend, you can multiply for another proportion. On holidays, you can make scalable over time as well. So for example, after 8 hours of overtime, from the 9th hour until the 20th hour, the multiplication will be different. And that will be also different from the 20th and above. You have a lot of different logics you can use CrossChex standard. CrossChex Cloud is a more basic function as we spoke before, okay? What if employees shift in flexible start time? He punches 9 p.m. today and punch 6 a.m. next day. An employee not using special function books. Okay, this is a good question, Mr. Shihab. So right now, we are not working with overtime, overnight shifts, okay? Not even fixed, not even flexible. We have this limitance on the software right now. So the working period will always be at the same day for now. So it must start in the same day that finishes, cannot cross midnight from one day to another. Otherwise, the software will not react correctly. We are already working on a next upgrade to cover overnight shifts, but for now, we cannot provide that on CrossChex Cloud. Remembering, we can provide that on CrossChex standard if that is a mandatory for the customer, okay?
So Leo, for overnight shifts, we can recommend to go them for a CrossCheck standard where we can create the night shifts and
Yes,
we can
exactly.
assign it on auto assignment feature.
That's correct. So on the CrossCheck standard, we can consider creating shifts from starting one day and finishing the other, including there is a configuration we can do that you can consider to make the report to considering as the first day or the last day. So you would have the reports exactly according to what you want. But for CrossChex Cloud, overnight shifts are not recommended, okay? And let's do the last question for now. And we have to finish. We have some other things to do here. I'm sorry if I would stay with you guys for a long time, but I guess we have a lot of questions for now. Finishing with the question of Mr. Dam. Currently, Envis Cloud on the web, we use free forever and with no limit adding Envis hardware and storage long time for recording data of staff. Well, let's see if I understand that correct, Mr. Dam. For now, that's correct. There is not a limit of devices. There is not a limit of the employees. You can use as much as you want, but we cannot promise that is going to be forever, okay? So as I mentioned, we have some plans for a premium version of CrossChex Cloud. So on the premium version, some rules will be established that will include quantity of devices, quantity of employees, some special features of the software that are still not defined. So that will be the next step for us once we have the basic features working completely. So the basic features working completely is everything we are explaining here that we are improving step by step. For example, the manual requests we did recently, the break functions we are doing right now, the next step, the APP with the GPS location. So these are also basic functions, but next step will be having a premium version of CrossChex Cloud. So you are happy now that everything's free, but in the future, maybe it will not be like this. Okay. So guys, thank you for being here until the end. Diraj, appreciate you, man. Thank you very much for the support. Uh, guys,
Thank you so
stay
much.
tuned for the next trainings, for the next webinars. Follow us on our social medias. Just type Envis Global there. You will find us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. We have the channels there, one for support, one for the sales. So guys, thank you again. Hope to see you in
Thank
the
you,
next
everyone. Thanks a lot.
opportunity. Take
Yeah,
care. Bye bye, Diraj. Take care as well.
you do take care.